Hello everyone. Today I'll be talking to you about Pyrefly, our new type checker and IDE from Meta. My name is Kyle, and for the past few years I've been working at Meta. My goal has mostly been to give the Python developers there the best possible editing experience in their IDE. Meta has more than 6,000 Python developers at the company, and Python is the most widely used language. Let me ask the room, who here uses a type checker in your Python projects? It looks like most of you, but not all of you. Today, I'm excited to show you Pyrefly, a project we've been working on, and how it can help you in more ways than just showing you type errors. But first, let's take a step back and talk about the type system in Python. So, types were added to Python in 3.5. Since then, you've been able to annotate your program with the types of local variables, function parameters, and attributes. This can be really useful in a few ways. First of which is understanding APIs. So because I've annotated my parameters up there with two ints, when I call this add numbers function, I know to provide ints as arguments. It also is helpful in catching typos. So I have a class chocolate here, %cocoa attribute. When I try accessing this attribute, if I spell it cacao by accident, the type checker can warn me that I've made a typo, I need to change it. The most important feature of the typing system in large organizations or large code bases is refactor safety. So if I refactor my code from taking one parameter to now taking two, you'll notice greet, when I call it, I need to now provide a language argument. I need to go and update the call sites of greet to add this argument. I missed one spot over there, and my type checker has warned me that I need to go update it. But a warning, these type annotations are actually ignored in the runtime without a type checker run. So Python actually runs this code right here, where I've made a variable x, assigned it to a string, but I've annotated it as an int. I asked you earlier how many of you use a type checker. If you use a modern editor like PyCharm or VS Code, you're likely using a type checker whether you know it or not. In VS Code, the type checker Pyrite analyzes your code in order to help you in the IDE here with completions. So Pyrite has read your class, it knows you have these two attributes x and y on foo, and it can help you complete this right here. Let's talk about the existing type checkers out there in 2024. If you want to type check your code, you might consider Pyrite as a type checker. It does have an IDE, which we just saw, which means it helps you with completions. It helps you when you command click to find the definition. It can help you when you hover over local variables. It does not have a lot of third-party support for commonly used libraries. So if your project uses Pydantic, SQL Alchemy, or Django, these don't work super well with the existing type system. There needs to be custom behavior, which other type checkers may implement. And for that reason, a lot of people haven't used Pyrite on the command line to type check. Type checking a large open source project like Pyrite for me takes a matter of minutes. At Meta, if we wanted to use Pyrite to type check the entire Instagram codebase, Pyrite would run out of memory. We wouldn't be able to do that. Another type checker you might want to use is MyPy. This does not have an IDE. It doesn't help you command click. It doesn't help you in hovering when you're editing. But it does have a lot of third-party support for these libraries that are commonly used. It type checks PyTorch in about a minute, and it is actually what PyTorch uses to type check. And similar to Pyrite, it runs out of memory trying to type check Instagram, just because Instagram is such a big code base. I'll mention Pyre here, even though a lot of you might not have heard of it. Pyre was another Meta type checker. We wrote Pyre exclusively to be able to type check Instagram. It has a really fast incremental system, meaning if you had a type check, you make a small change, Pyre can quickly type check the difference and show type errors to you. It does not have an IDE, though we tried giving it one, and if you want to hear about that, come find me after. And it doesn't have a lot of third-party support or support for open source in general. It takes minutes to type check PyTorch as well. So your situation might look something like this. You use Pyrite in your IDE, and use MyPy on the command line. That's because Pyrite is the most popular open source type checker in the IDE, And MyPy has this third-party support, so people use it to type check on the command line. You might also use PyCharm in your IDE, since that one's also a really good option. This works really well if these type checkers agree. You'll notice we have a type error on both for this 1+ string that shouldn't work, and we're happy because as we're editing, we see this type error. When we submit our code, we see the type error as well. But if this doesn't agree, it could be frustrating. As I'm editing, I might not see my type error in my IDE, because by default, VS Code doesn't show these type errors. I go to submit my code, my project tells me it's an error, I have to go back, make changes to my code after my feature's already done, and resubmit. That could be frustrating. Before long, I've got all these configs for each type checker. I use MyPy on the command line and on CI. I have a pyproject.toml for my other configs. I use Pyrite in my IDE. All these configs can get super confusing. Understanding the difference between these three configs is almost as difficult as knowing the difference between Great Britain, the UK, and England. Which one covers what again? There's no way to know. So let's say you do everything correctly. You've got MyPy in your editor, you've got MyPy on the command line, you've got MyPy on CI. You can still be confused. That's because when you go to hover a type, MyPy might show a type error saying it's a type. When you hover it in your IDE, it's actually Pyrite. That type could disagree. We have this problem at Meta where we use Pyre as our type checker, but Pyrite in our IDE, and these types don't always agree. You shouldn't be able to read this, but I'm showing you what's called the typing conformance test suite. Each column is a type checker. Each color difference means each of these type checkers has different behavior on each row. You'll notice there's a lot of colors. These type checkers don't always agree. Wouldn't it be nice if your type checker and your IDE agreed? Today, I want to talk about Pyrefly. It's a language server, meaning it has the IDE features you love, like hovering, like completions, and it's a type checker, meaning it can help you provide diagnostics for typos and stuff. We announced it at PyCon this year, and it's currently in alpha. Adding it to this list, it does have an IDE. We are working on third-party support. Just this week, we got Pydantic support, and SQL Alchemy and Django are coming soon. We can type check PyTorch in about 3 seconds, and we can type check Instagram 35 times faster than Pyre could. If this visual, or if this number doesn't make a lot of sense to you, let me show you a side-by-side. So PyTorch is currently type checked with MyPy in their project. I'll do a MyPy type check versus a Pyrefly type check live in a video. On the top we have Pyrefly, on the bottom we have MyPy. And you'll notice this number here means Pyrefly already completed, and we're running it over and over again on loop. While that's happening, I'll tell you about why Pyrefly is so fast. It was written in Rust. It is parallel, so it runs on many cores. It is incremental, so we only check what we need to each time, as little as possible, though here you're seeing a full type check of the full project. And we've worked really hard to optimize it. So when you're running a type checker, it's really easy to end up with n-squared algorithms everywhere. We've been going in, being very diligent, trying to make the whole thing as fast as possible. We wrote 7 iterations of Pyrefly before we ended up on the one we're on. Either the other ones were too slow, or they didn't model Python correctly. But here we are with Pyrefly. We think it's very fast. The one thing that isn't super fast about Pyrefly right now, Pyrefly, you have to type 7 characters to type check it on the command line. We are still working on that, as MyPy was only 4. I think this video is almost done. You'll see some MyPy errors have started showing up. And we'll just wait another few seconds on that. And it looks like MyPy completed, Pyrefly completed also. So even though Pyrefly is still in alpha, we recently achieved a major milestone in development. We are actually using Pyrefly in production at Instagram for the IDE. So we aren't yet type checking Instagram because we're still in alpha, we're working out some final kinks, but the Instagram developers have had huge success using Pyrefly for the IDE part of their development. So command clicking, hovering, completing as they're typing. Here are some stats on how fast we are compared to Pyrite. But since Instagram is such a huge code base, like I mentioned, seeing the difference between a couple seconds waiting on your IDE to milliseconds can be huge. If that doesn't make a lot of sense, let me show you a side-by-side between iterating in the IDE, waiting on completions from Pyrefly to Pyrite. Pyrite is really good. We used Pyrite for a long time. It just couldn't scale to the size of our Instagram code base. So on the left, we have Pyrefly. We've made a change to a really, really big file. And you'll notice it was pretty quick for Pyrefly's completions to show up. Pyrite took 6 extra seconds about. This file has a ton of dependencies. It's really, really, really large. So it ends up like slowing Pyrite's type checker. Another time it can be annoying when you're editing your code is in startup. So the first time you open a document, the type checker has to index the whole thing, maybe, or at least it has to index as little as possible. It'll read all the dependencies. This is another case where Pyrefly shines for internal development for us at Meta. So again, on the left, you see Pyrefly. We've opened the document for the first time. We're trying to show the completions on this list L. And it does take a little bit longer than last time, but it shouldn't take too long. Instagram is a huge code base. This is an example project. And you'll notice Pyrefly completed. I've started a timer for Pyrite, and I will increase the playback speed because we don't want to be here too long. But as you can imagine, if you're an Instagram developer, you open up your laptop to start work, you try making a change. Waiting this long can be super, super frustrating. So this is the timer of additional time for Pyrite, not total time. And we see it completed about 50 seconds after. I promise this is the last video comparison I'll show you all today. I have a relevant XKCD. You might not all be able to see it in the back. But if you're a boss and you don't want your programmer to get distracted, this speed when starting up can be super important. So Hinnick mentioned in the keynote today that Python's superpower is its graduality. If you don't want to type check your Python code, you shouldn't have to. Python should be available to everyone, no matter what they want to do. I want to show you in more detail how Pyrefly can help you even when you don't specify types in your program. So in this example, I call a getNames function. I access the first item of the result of that, and I want to see the completions that are associated. How does Pyrefly actually understand this and know what to show here? Well, first, it must understand the expression to the left of this dot. To understand that expression, we need to know what the result of getNames is. If we look at the implementation, getNames doesn't have a return type annotated, so Pyrefly has to go in and figure this out based on the body. We see names is set to an empty list. Pyrefly can't yet know what type that is. As soon as we add the first item to this names list, Pyrefly then can know that this is now a list of strings so far. It adds an inlay type hint up there. In your editor, if you have this turned on, you'll start seeing it. And then as we add more items to this, they're still strings, so it all still works out. We go to return this, and now Pyrefly knows that getNames returns a list of strings. Down at the bottom, we now know that the first part of our expression is a list of strings. To understand what the first item of that list of strings is, we go to TypeShed, which is a repository of types for the standard library. We see that a list of t, get item returns t. We know that a list of strings returns a string. And then we have the result of this expression. To understand what attributes and functions we can call on that, we need to look up the string in the same place. We see that string has all these functions, and then Pyrefly knows what to complete there. So even if you don't add types, Pyrefly can still be useful in your project. How do you get Pyrefly? If you want to download it on the command line, you can run pip install. If you want to both download it and run it at the same time, you can use UVX to do Pyrefly check. It'll download it and run it. If you have an editor, you can download Pyrefly from a marketplace, like VS Code, Cursor, Windsurf, all have it in the marketplace. We have a JetBrains extension too in the marketplace, though it's third party, not made by us. If you want more details, if you use Vim, Emacs, setup instructions are on pyrefly.org. Also on pyrefly.org are links to our Discord, where you can ask us questions, get involved. Links to our GitHub, you can contribute, look at the source code. And on our website is a sandbox where without downloading Pyrefly, you can try it out, edit code, run the code, see what the types all add up to. But you might be saying, we already use MyPy. We don't want to set up a new type checker. We've already written the config for MyPy. It all seems to work for us. Pyrefly has a solution to that. If you run Pyrefly init without any config already, Pyrefly will take your MyPy config and take what it can, put that in a Pyrefly config, so you don't have to do as much setup. You might also say, my project has too many type errors. I don't want a type checker. My teammates will never fix these. To turn on Pyrefly for the first time and have it run on CI, you don't actually have to fix any of these type errors. If you run Pyrefly check -- suppress errors, we will type check your project. We will then insert error suppressions, which are comments in your code that hide the type error from Pyrefly. And then you can make a commit with these error suppressions. You can merge that. That will make it so that from then on, new type errors appear in CI, appear in your IDE. It makes it really easy to go in and then fix these one by one when you don't want to fix them all at the same time. So I will leave the downloading instructions on the screen. I think we have a few minutes for questions. Thank you all, everyone. I also actually have stickers, Pyrefly stickers, in the bag down there. I will leave out after the talk if anyone's interested. You can, if you want to call out questions too, I can repeat them. You can, I guess.
I'll ask a question then. How do you write third-party extensions?
So yeah, MyPy has these third-party extensions. You're talking about like the MyPy extensions. MyPy has the ability to write these extensions on the type checker, which lets you add things that aren't in the Python type system to MyPy to get it type checked. We have chosen so far to avoid that for now. We want to make it so we're moving fast in making changes to Pyrefly while it's still in alpha especially. And just making an extensions API means we have to agree on an API, changes will be harder. So if you do have something you want an extension for, like I mentioned, Pydantic, SQL Alchemy, Django, we're adding support for that. We are happy to add first-party support.
Thank you. Nice looking project. You're using it was a pyrefly.toml as the config. If I'm a pyproject.toml absolutist, can I put the config in there?
Yes, you can. We also work in pyproject.toml, as far as I know.
Off the top of your head, do you know what's missing before a beta release?
Beta release, we have, I think as of this week, posted on GitHub what we are missing for our beta release. I don't think we're originally doing a beta release. I think we were planning on going from alpha to 1.0. In terms of the IDE, which is where I primarily work the most, there's a list of bugs we want to get fixed. In terms of the type checker, I'm not too familiar. It's all on GitHub, though.
Hey, what's the most difficult Python feature to type check?
Most difficult Python feature to type check. I know in the beginning of Pyrefly, we tried starting with the most difficult parts so that we knew that the model that we had was correct. We started with like generics, and stuff like that. I think for me, like from what I work on, most difficult part, performance in the IDE, but yeah, I guess in terms of Python, like I think generics can be difficult to model.
It'll take me a moment to get to this person.
Do you know off the top of your head what the memory footprint of Pyrefly is?
It definitely depends on your project. We have a bug right now where we are using more memory than we would like to, though our memory usage for Instagram is much, much, much lower than Pyre's. It depends on your project size.
Do you have any comparisons to MyPy for like?
I
appreciate
did not.
you said it doesn't type check Instagram.
Yeah, I didn't look. I think it's easy to test that, I think, if anyone wants to. Pip install Pyrefly. I don't off the top of my head, no. I can, if you find me after, we can just do it and we can check.
Yeah. I have another question here.
If you want to add type checks into your code base that doesn't have it, does it automatically do it for all versions of Python, or is it just for certain versions of Python that you support?
Yeah, so if you add, the question was if you add type checking, does it type check every version? And is the question more about like, can you run your code with the different Python versions, basically?
Well, that's one, but if you haven't got type specified, you know, looking at the example you gave that, you know, that get names one, it seemed to be adding types into the code. Is that one way of sort of improving your code automatically?
Yeah,
I mean, you know, the lazy coder, that's, you know, that would be great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me pull this up. Here, Pyrefly is adding these inline type into the gray text. This is actually in an editor, it wouldn't show up on disk. So these list of strings that are added don't actually get added to your program unless you double click it. Pyrefly has some inference tools. You can run Pyrefly infer, and it can actually add types to your program automatically. The question of like, will it work with all different versions of Python? I think like the standard library changes, things change over different versions. There are version guards in place in the type system, so you can add an if sys.version check. We also are backwards compatible with at least a few Python versions. I don't know all the details on that.
Okay, I think we're to time, so thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, everyone. I will be leaving stickers up front, and feel free to find me if you have any more questions. Thank you.